It's my pleasure to welcome everyone this evening. Say Shabbat Shalom, Yesh Koach to Kol Rina and Matt Kurtzman for leading us this evening. As I mentioned in my message that went out this afternoon, last Saturday night, immediately after Shabbat, there was rumors. It was already said that bodies had been found. And there was rumors circulating about who those bodies were. I didn't believe it. Tried to ignore it for a little bit. The reports out of Israel were nothing has been confirmed about the identities of the bodies that had been found. And a few hours later, before I went to bed that evening, in fact, it had been confirmed. And as I shared earlier this week, 6 hostages, we all know, were found. And it's remarkable, I didn't know any of them, but had connections to 2 of them. Hirsch Goldberg-Pollin, as many of you know, has been the face of the hostages from the incredible work that both of his parents have been doing all over the world, advocating for all of the hostages released, not only their son. His family, for many years, as I'll say, was connected to the camp that my children go to, Camp Ramav Darom in Georgia, and where Talia and I have spent summers working as well. Spent 9 years there over their Passover camp. And those of you who were here just a few months ago, the cousin of Carmel Gott, who lives here in Dallas, spoke right here about her cousin who was held hostage and was one of the 6 found as well. So I want to pause for a few minutes before I share a few remarks. We often internalize these feelings. It was one of the toughest weeks I can remember in the past 11 months, going back all the way to the feelings we had just in the days after October 7th. I want to invite anyone who would like to share a quick thought or feeling to do so this evening. There's no right or wrong. Just share how you're feeling at the moment. Yeah, Beth. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
I just thought it was interesting that, after the people were killed, that you saw the protests in the streets of Israel, and they were while they were mad at obviously Hamas and the people who did it, they were also mad at their leader for not, getting a deal done. So they were blaming him as well. So I just thought that was, you really haven't seen this in such a while. Everybody was together, a year ago, and now everybody's kind of infighting and saying, well, it's your fault, you should have done more, things like that. So, I found that very interesting and a little bit disturbing.
I hear that. It's actually been a question I've been asked a lot by people in this country of why are they protesting in the streets? And we don't have nearly enough time tonight to begin to unpack that, but it's complicated. The only thing I just want to remind us all this evening about those protests, unlike times when we hear protests in this country, all of the protesters are showing up with Israeli flags draped over their shoulders or waving them in the air. There may be frustrations with the government, I'm not denying that, but they are incredibly in love with Israel and the Zionist idea. So I just want us to remember that, but thank you.
I agree.
Anyone else? Yeah, Debbie. So your question, just to repeat it for everyone, is why is the rest of the world not up in arms about this? As there's Americans still hostage, there's many countries of citizens who are still held captive by Hamas. Yeah. Thank you. All right, well, I encourage you at times, whether it's here or with family or friends or wherever it's about dinner table, take a few minutes. Don't hold all your thoughts inside. So Beth mentioned this a minute ago, but the question I've been asked, and we do it all the time, how are you doing? And it's actually been a really hard question to answer this week. In some ways, as I mentioned, I have the exact same feeling these past few days as I did right after October 7th. Yes, things in my family are good. School has started well for my children. We're hard at work here at Anshai Torah trying to make the high holidays the most spiritually fulfilling for our congregation. But I don't feel normal. I feel a sense of heaviness on me, and I'm upset. And I know I'm not alone in this feeling. So how do I answer the question? How am I doing? I'm sure, like many of you, who were brought to tears as we watched Hirsch's funeral on Monday. I was incredibly moved that at his funeral, his parents and his sisters were able to put the number 332 on their chest, on the masking tape, with a black permanent marker that they have now done for over 330 days, bringing awareness to and support for hostages. Hirsch was in captivity for 330 days before he was murdered with those 5 other hostages I spoke about. But yet they showed up at the funeral for their child and were able to have hope for the remaining hostages held in Gaza, and did that so visibly with that piece of tape. If you saw the funeral or if you didn't see the funeral, it's still available online. But Hirsch's father, John, who I'm sure you've seen his face all over, spoke right after President Isaac Herzog of the State of Israel. On the Federation mission to Israel that I, with many of our congregation, was at, visited the Nova Music Festival site. And we stood in one of the bomb shelters that Hirsch and his best friend, Honor Shapira, were in when Hamas attacked that morning, with many other scared young people. Honor threw out grenade after grenade from the shelter, saving everyone inside. Unfortunately, one of those he was not able to get out and killed him. It was incredibly painful as I watched John remark at the funeral that Hirsch's best friends, family, just finished reciting 11 months of Kaddish And here they were, just beginning as a family to sit Shiva and mourn for this year. And he remarked that 1 year of mourning was not enough for these two amazing young men. So now they have 2 years of mourning. The picture, though, that his parents and his sisters painted for him, about him, at the funeral, were beautiful. His father remarked that his last name, Pollin, could mean a worker for salvation, and that Hirsch was always seeking a way to make the world a better place. I'm going to quote what John said. "You would ignore people's public posturing and what people say at press conferences. And you would push every decision maker to truly look themselves in the mirror and to ask themselves selflessly every single day, will the decisions I made today lead to a better future for all of us? And you would tell any decision maker who cannot answer that question with an emphatic yes to step aside." This week hurts. And in some ways, the entire Jewish community this week has been in mourning. But on Shabbat, we do not mourn. We put the practices when we're sitting Shiva on hold for Shabbat to enjoy the beauty, the fulfillment of community, God, and the joy that we can bring one another. Shiva will soon come to an end for Hirsch and the other hostages that were buried this week. Hirsch's family all spoke about hope. Hope to continue living with the desire to improve the world, and hope to bring the remaining hostages home alive. If they can maintain that hope during their incredibly personal grief, then all of us can certainly try as well. Tomorrow morning, we'll read the Parsha of Shoftim, famously known for the verse, Tzedek, Tzedek, Tirdof, justice, justice, you shall pursue. We each can keep Hirsch's memory alive by advocating to bring the remaining hostages home and committing to make our world a better place. God demands us to pursue justice, and so does Hirsch's memory. May Carmel, Ori, Almog, Alex, Eden, and Hirsch's memories always be for a blessing to bring us goodness and a better world tomorrow.